I'm your host, Thomas Scaria, a resilience coach, a ultra marathoner, and a firm believer in your next most powerful chapter. This podcast is a companion to my upcoming book, Resilience Plus Rise 26.2 Transformative Miles to Unleash Your Marathon of Life Mindset, coming spring 2025. Few weeks, quite possible. Here we amplify stories of hope, perseverance, and success to inspire your journey. For today's guest, what can I say? When I was looking at the background, the thoughts which came to my mind was from the crucible of a cage to a boardroom battlegrounds where pressure births diamonds and setback forges champions. Today, we dwell into the heart of a fighter formula. Yes, where grit meets strategy and where every knockdown is a lesson to rise stronger. We are joined by a man who knows the taste of both defeat as well as victory, and a master of transforming pressure into fuel. Welcome, Clifford Starks.
Hey, Thomas, appreciate you having me on. Thank you very much.
So, to the people or to the uninitiated, Clifford, who are you?
I am a guy who wanted to live a life worth living. And I have, like I said, like you said, I've felt the highs, I felt the lows. And so I've experienced both. And if I have something to share with other people who are going through their life, looking to get to their highest highs, and maybe they're hitting their lowest lows, if I have a lesson that can support them along the way, I'd love to share it. Love to support them.
Fantastic. So, your previous life, as I would say, is that it started in the ring and you were in the MMA
Yeah.
and you trained so very well for your first fight. You got up, you stood in front of the audience, you first stood in front of the TV, and you were knocked out. Tell me the story. What
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah. My big thing was I wanted to fight in the UFC in less than a year, and I ended up achieving that goal. And sometimes when we achieve one goal, it puts us in a position to either rise above or get knocked out. And I was in one of those situations where I got knocked out, literally, on live TV. The one thing that I didn't want to happen. And what transpired from that, I worked my butt off to get ready for that fight. You know, they say luck is preparation and opportunity meeting together, and I was prepared. I was ready to fight, and I made one wrong decision, one, and it ended up costing me the fight. And so as I'm watching myself, because the UFC, it doesn't just show it once, it shows it multiple times, sometimes in slow motion. I looked at it, and I I was down for a second, and then I got back up. I had the right coaches in my corner. I had the right people in my corner, and I was the right person in my corner too. I'm one of those people who focuses on being optimistic and seeing what I do have instead of what I don't. And so I was looking towards my future. What am I going to do now? What am I going to become? How am I going to show up? I didn't even know if I was going to fight anymore. I just knew that I was going to be the best in whatever I was going to do. And my thoughts as I processed it all, I was like, you know what? I want to continue fighting, and I want to continue to get better as I go through the process. And that's what I focused on doing.
And then what happened?
Then the next morning, my jaw hurt really, really badly
Okay.
because getting caught with a flying knee is not the most comfortable thing. Um, but pressure creates diamonds. It really does. Or it can create coal, depending on how you show up. Um, so what I did was I made sure to take care of my body in the best way that I could. I wasn't going to force anything, and I gave myself the time and the break to let my jaw recover, let my ear recover. It not only hurt my jaw, it hurt my ear. It kind of sucked.
Hmm.
But I took the time to recover, and I really really focused on what I was going to do next, how I was going to show up next, how I was going to be my best next. And after about I got back in the training room about 2 weeks after it happened,
Hmm.
not to actually spar with other people because that would have been dangerous, but just to get some work, just to get some movement. Because there's a saying, inertia, an object in motion stays in motion, and an object at rest stays at rest. And I know if I rest too long, I'm gonna stop, and it's gonna be harder to stop to start again. And so what I did was just get some motion, get some movement, remind myself, hey, I'm still in this game. I still got momentum, and I just got to keep moving with it.
Okay. And that continued for till you got back to the ring, and then you went ahead and got some more accolades, some
Mhm.
more belts that you could put across.
Absolutely.
So here, Clifford, then the pivot point comes in because when I speak to a lot of personalities, one of the most important point which comes out or which is a resonance is that a sense of purpose comes from the deepest of our pains. So where or when did you decide about going towards the warrior mentality, moving it from the rings to the boardroom?
Mhm.
What inspired you to be the person you are at this point of time, that whether it's a keynote speaker, whether you're a writer, whether you're a podcaster, but what were the elements that allowed you to say that, okay, you know what, this is what I want to help people with?
So my biggest thing as I went through my process. Give me 1 second because my kid is yelling like a maniac right now.
No, no, no worries, no worries.
That's
Life,
hilarious.
life
So,
happens. Life happens. Life
but
happens.
part of it was because of my kid, actually. Like
Mm.
that's the funny thing. So
Okay,
what had me stop fighting? The risk wasn't worth the reward anymore.
okay.
No, I say I have two ways of being, and they've been consistent on my journey. One of those is I want to live a life worth living. Like that was
Hmm.
what I really wanted to focus on doing. I wanted to focus on doing that because I saw my grandfather pass away when I was 5, and it just terrified me. And I knew that one day I was going to go. And then the second was teach people how to love as a and I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know.
Hmm.
Um, and teach people how to love. That was like my God given thing. Like
Okay.
God gave that to me. And as I went through my process, um, give that here. No, leave that alone, buddy. What do you mean? When I went through that,
It's okay.
it's cool because they live in their own little world. I love it. So,
No
um,
worries.
in my process of teaching people how to love, part of that was to get inside of a cage, like because I wanted to be in an arena to spread my message, and I felt like, oh, did you have a
Yeah,
question?
yeah. I got a question over here. Is that when you
Yeah.
mentioned about uh, you wanted to give people love,
Mhm.
was it during your formative years that you lacked the concept of love, or did you feel that love is lacking in the world around? That you believe that You could also be a drop in that ocean, which could help in creating a beautiful being of love.
Yeah. For me, I have deep love for people.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that I was born with.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived in a place where I was the only black kid, so it caused that was a an area of resilient building, just that in and of itself, because as a kid you want to be able to fit in ultimately,
Mm-hmm.
and that was hard to do under the circumstances. And so as I went through that, I wanted people to love one another, like I really wanted that at a very deep level, and I didn't think they knew how to do it. So I was kind of like, they don't know how to do this thing. And that's when God spoke to me and said, teach them. Um, didn't know how I was going to teach them, didn't know what I was going to do. Just took on the challenge and took it on in the best way that I could take it on as a kid. Now I'm a 43-year-old man, so I'm much more polished in how to do it and what to do and what it actually gives to people too, because we talk about there's nothing more powerful than love, but if you don't know how to do it, it doesn't really matter. You can say it, but saying it is one thing. Like it's like saying like there's nothing more powerful than being healthy. If you don't have the skills to being healthy, it doesn't matter. You need to learn how to be healthy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's continue the journeys. So when your kids were there, you realized that you had to move away from the ring, the fighting
Mhm.
ring, to something which is more different. And you had the concept that you need to get the love, concept of love, or the essence of love. So the people are, they can reach out for one another. So tell us about that journey.
Yeah. Like I didn't think I was supposed to share I teach you how to love.
Mm-hmm.
I felt I needed to share something completely different.
Okay.
And so as I went through the journey, um, there's things that we look for, and then there's things that we don't look for. And our brain tends to focus on what we don't want more than what we do want.
True.
And so I wanted to bring the focus onto what would happen if people didn't have something. So the question became, well, what happens if you don't have love in your life? And it comes up with a lot of interesting things. You know, my mom was a hospice nurse, so I got to see people on their deathbeds and not live the life they wanted to live. I want to make sure that didn't happen. I want people to live their life in the way that they want to live it, so that when they're on their deathbed, they're happy being there to say, I did all this cool stuff. I did this, and I did this over there. And it really does start with love, human beings loving one another, because love is subjective. And so I could tell you, Thomas, I love you, but that doesn't mean anything until I actually ask you a question on what that means to you, or what does
True.
love mean to you, or what do you like, what do you enjoy, what are your passions? Kind of like what you're doing with me right now. You're learning about me, you're pulling from me by asking questions.
True.
And so I go, oh, true love starts with asking a question to another human being, understanding another human being.
Exactly. It's I don't say the word funny, but it's I would say, because when I connect with people, for me, I walk in to a podcast room with two basic elements or tenets. One is that there are no strangers, only friends we have not met,
Yeah.
and the second one is we all are like angels with one wing. It's only when we hold another that's when we learn to fly higher.
Yeah.
So the concept of holding, and that's what I have been quite blessed with, that the guests who have been personalities who have been coming on my show, they, as we have seen, is that when you're ready to come out with what is deep within you, and as you mentioned, Clifford, is that the love which comes up is when we are ready to open our deep within. In today's world, we don't want to show the vulnerability, but vulnerability is one of the most beautiful things which we can allow a connection between another human.
Yeah.
So when you got into this concept of love, that sounds good. But then you would think that, okay, you're going to be kind of a love guru, but you turned into the boardrooms.
Mhm.
What was that journey about?
Yeah, so it was I took the entrepreneurial journey and I was like, "Holy crap. It's just like fighting all over again because when you get into a fight, you think you know more than you know until you get into your first one. And then
Okay,
you realize, "Oh wow, there's a lot that I don't know." Um and it humbles you. And every time you
okay,
get into something, I go, the more I live, the humbler I get. And so as I go through my journey, there was more that I didn't know than that I did. And
okay.
that just continues to go. And I ultimately say my greatest awareness is that there's more that I don't know than that I do.
Wonderful. And I think so that's one of the first steps of learning or growing.
Yeah.
So how did you come across, if you're allowed to say, about the fighter formula
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you help
Absolutely.
people to?
It was funny because I became a speaker
Okay,
and I spoke for my first time and I was terrible at it. Like I was a terrible speaker. And I spoke with my speaking coach and I told her where I messed up and she goes, "Oh, that's an easy fix." She goes, "You just have to take people like how do they become a finished product?" Cuz I was actually a personal trainer before I was a fighter. So I was
okay.
coaching people before I even became a high level fighter and it was
Mhm.
really important to me to do. Like I always like to drive people. And what got me into training, I was an overweight kid. I ended up losing my weight.
Super. Okay,
Yeah, yeah. And so it was how do you get them from a product to a finished product? What are the steps that you take them through so that they can show up fully? And I sat down and I thought about it and I put the pieces in place. And that was the start of the fighter's formula. It was something that was always in my it wasn't always in my head. I had to go through my process, but it was steps that I took to get to my successes and then I support others in getting to their successes.
okay. So what is this, if you're allowed to say, what is this for fighter formula? Is that, is there a specific key steps that you're working around with, or what helps you? So one of the elements which I've known is that we are our worst of critics. For us to break that boundaries or to break that wall, it takes a lot. So
Yeah.
what does a fighter formula do that they are able to break the walls and become more higher version of their own self?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's three pieces to a line that I say. When you're aligned in your mind, and your mind is you just have the mental capabilities to forecast, to strategize, to see, to come up with educated guesses and then test those educated guesses.
Okay,
So aligned in mind, aligned in heart, and aligned in heart is you love what you do, you have your passion, you have your purpose, you know what it is that you do. And then aligned in skill, do you have the right skill sets to get to where you're looking to go? Because if I told someone if they're strong in mind and they're strong in heart, but they don't have the skills, well, that's going to make things really difficult. But if they have the mind, the heart, and the skills, well, now they're in this position to skyrocket to wherever they want to skyrocket to. And so that's what I focus on, like, okay, aligning those three things, getting those three things in place so that they can win the game of life.
Wonderful. That's such a so guys. This is a amazing golden nugget, and I'll be putting out Clifford's web link as well as his contact information down in the comments below. So do have a look onto it and get to know the wonderful human we seen now as Clifford. So
Yeah, thank you.
Clifford, what are the next parts of the journey that you're going through in this journey called life for the next
Yeah.
few months or for next few years? You got something which is planned out, which is going to be a bigger version of what you're doing.
Yeah, I want to create massive impact.
Okay.
And impact is the ability to get people to their desires. You know,
Hmm.
I love how Martin Luther King Jr. said, I have a dream, because it's a powerful dream. He talks about the mountaintop, getting people to
Yes.
the mountaintop. He also talks about um, being judged by your character. And this is a place where I just add on to what he's saying, because I think leaders support other leaders in making the dream even clearer. I don't want to judge people by their character. I want to build their character. I want people's character to be strong, because when people have strong character, like you said, we each have one wing. And when we come together, we get to fly as high as we can possibly fly. Get rid of the garbage that's in here, because that's all it is. We're saying,
Hmm.
oh, this is different. Oh, this is and different is bad. It's like, no, not necessarily. If you think that different is bad, then yeah, you're going to be right. But if you can think different is good and you can see some positivity in that and you can see opportunity, well, then we got something. And so going back to that kid who didn't want to be, he wanted to fit in, realized fitting is about being okay with yourself.
Okay.
Because when you're okay with yourself, you can allow others to be okay with themselves. And then everybody wins.
Super. That's fantastic. To a layman who or the listener, and they say, "Oh, this guy is a UFC fighter. He has seen the good and he has really rubbed shoulders with people around, so it's easy for him to take on things." But at times, when a common person is just looking at what, I'm not asking you for advice, I'm asking for suggestion. What can they do? You mentioned already about the alignments, but if they want to strive a little ahead of what they are, so here you said a beautiful statement that I always believe is that life is for living, not for existing. So if they want to break the shackles of just existing and live a life better, what suggestions would you give them so that be they can up their game?
Yeah. Yeah. So I even go back to when we all come together, we win.
Okay.
And I actually want to add to that, when we come together as our best selves, we win. And it
Wonderful.
starts with each and every one of us, myself included, looking in the mirror and saying, what does my best self look like? And then practicing towards being that best self. And only that individual can describe what their best self is. What is their best self? Like, how do they show up? Because I do my best to show up as the best father, the best husband, the best leader, the best server that I can be as I'm going through the journey. And my goal was to influence 1 billion people. I would have never guessed that everybody that I influence actually influences me too. I thought I was there to serve them, but they're serving me as well.
I can see so much of that particular reflection in what I'm doing in podcasting is that it's such a blessed, humbling, and a learning moment when I'm talking to amazing personalities like you all. I mean, everybody is an amazing human, and
Yeah.
when they tell me about their stories, their challenges, and how they've come up, it is you can just say, "Aha,
Hmm.
life is wonderful." So, just being mindful of the time. Are there any parting thoughts that comes to your mind that you would
Yeah.
like the audience to know about, whether it is about your the fighter mentality, whether it is about your what you're doing, or just generally what you like to tell the listeners?
Yeah. First, I want to say kudos to your book, Resilience Plus Rise. That's absolutely amazing. And to all of you who listen, thank you so much. Your time is the most precious thing that you can have. And you took time out of your busy day to spend with us. So thank you very, very much. And ultimately, go do things that scare your brain. Your brain wants to protect you, and it does its damnedest to do it. And it makes things bigger than they really are. Go after your dream, go after it. Be willing to be bold and stand for what it is that you want to stand for. This is for people who are just getting started in the beginning of their dream. And this is for people who are, they might have like, they might just need that one thing, that one piece. Go after it.
Wow, what a way to get out of the ring! Fantastic. So, guys, what we saw over here was, yes, coming from the Hall of Fame, he's a growth strategist. We realize that when he's talking, whether in this podcast or whether he's talking in the boardrooms or whether he's just talking in front of thousands of people, he knows the principles, whether it is the principles of alignment. Here we also heard about the confidence of being bold, and also the faith that you can do it. As we started the conversation was, he still remembers the time when he got knocked out for the first time in front of the crowd on a live TV. But he also said, no more slowing you down. So with this, thank you so very much, Clifford, for your space and time. It has been an amazing journey. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everybody.